Thank you. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Tigard-Tualatin School Board. I will call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. And I banged before, so I'm going to do it again just because. All right. Dr. Udo, are there any changes to the agenda?
Vice Chair Hymes, we have one adjustment to the agenda on Section 8, Part A. We do not have a representative here from the Tigard-Tualatin Virtual Academy. And Part C, we do not have a representative here from Tualatin High School to represent us. And that's it.
Okay, and do we have another amendment for the?
Yeah, based on the outcome of our executive session earlier this evening that was convened under RS 1922602I to review and evaluate the performance of the superintendent or any other public official officer. Based on the outcome of that, we are not going to have our superintendent evaluation item, which is report and discussion item number 9A, if I have a second from another board member.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
Okay. With the agenda approved as amended and a second, we move to a choral vote. Everybody in approval say aye.
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 And opposed? All right, it passes. Thank you so much. So, and yes, you are correct. I did forget to say that we met earlier today in executive session convened under ORS 192.660 2I to review and evaluate the performance of the superintendent or any other public officer, employee, or staff member unless that person requested an open hearing. We also met as a work session where we talked about our second semester academic review at 5:30. And with that, let's move on to our recognition and good news with Len Reed.
All right, good evening, board members and Superintendent Udo, students and cabinet staff. I am excited to welcome and introduce to you all some up and coming folks, promotions, and also new folks to TTSD in leadership roles. And to start us off, and starting off first with promotions, over on my left side here, we have Jason Ashley. Jason is or was a counselor at Tigard High School, and he is now taking on the role as the associate principal AD at Tigard High School. Jason has served at Tigard High School since 2017. What makes him a qualified candidate for this role is that he has served as an athletic director for LaSalle High School for 4 years and has coached numerous sports programs such as basketball, softball, and football. He has coached at all levels. So what I mean by that is middle school, high school, and collegiate. We are fortunate to have his talent within our district, and look forward to the outcomes he will produce in the future. So welcoming Jason Ashley. Give a round of applause. So another promotion that I'd like to make is on my other side here. My right, your left is Kevin. Kevin Montag is now our Director of Bonds and Operations. And so we're excited to introduce him into this new role. He was formerly our facilities manager and will begin his new role on July 1st. which, as we already know, a lot of the bond work is already happening. So he's been jumping in and getting stuff done. He has experience with bond and construction management, and he will be able to bring his background and experience in those areas to this new role. So we're excited to welcome and promote Kevin to Director of Bond and Operations. Give him a round of applause. All right, and now we have a new face to the right of Kevin. Over to on the far left, we welcome Rebecca Ramirez Larson. And Rebecca is coming from us from Beaverton, and she's formerly a language arts TOSA. She's going to be the new associate principal at Tualatin High School. As a TOSA, she has worked on creating and delivering professional development for educators focused on literacy, equity, and linguistic inclusion and learning for multilingual learners. She also comes with a background in AVID. Rebecca looks forward to being back in a high school with teenagers. Nice. Who she believes are the most fun people to be around. And I feel that because that's how I feel about middle schoolers. And a fun fact about her, she loves vintage things. So clothes, furniture, and even technology. So we are looking forward to what her experience and talents will bring to TTSD. So let's welcome Rebecca. So those are the new faces we have here. We also have hired another Tualatin high school AP who was unable to be with us here, but is not an unknown entity to us. Angelita Miller is returning to TTSD to Tualatin High School as the AP. So when we have an opportunity to welcome her back to the fold, we will do that. All right, and that concludes our introductions for this evening. Any questions?
Yeah, I'll open it up for questions or comments. Welcome. No?
I just wanted to say welcome. I had the opportunity of interviewing each and every one of you, and we're so thrilled that you're going to be joining us. It's a great district to be in.
So yeah, welcome to Rebecca, the newbie, and congratulations to our rising stars. This might be a little bit self-serving, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So Rebecca, what was it about TTSD that drew you here to us?
I think really looking at your vision and strategic plan and looking at the focus not only on students and community and equity, but also on really pouring into teachers and growing your own. I think that makes a really big difference with a strong district. And I've had such good connections with people in Tigard-Tualatin, and so really excited to work with some people who I've worked with in the past.
Students, do you guys have any comments? All right. Yeah, just echo what everybody said. Welcome to you, and congratulations to you too, and welcome back, Angelita. I know we've missed her, so I'm glad that she's going to be back. So yeah, so thank you so much, and welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Are we going to do a picture?
Let's do a picture. Picture time.
Picture time.
So you all stand up here and we stand behind. No, it's, yeah. We stand behind you.
Yeah, stand behind. It's okay.
You're good. No, scratch it. I'll go there. There you go.
All right. Thank you. Welcome. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it felt like it, didn't it?
Okay, and with that, we'll move into our next agenda item, which is student representative reports. And turn it over to Moss.
Hi, happy summer. So we don't really have that many things going on at Tigard. However, in 2 weeks we have Yearbook Camp going on at the University of Puget Sound. Me and 7 other yearbook editors are going to be staying 3 nights and 4 days up there, making mock spreads and finding fonts and finding color palettes to create next year's theme. And then in terms of our upcoming fall sports, we have started attending and are hosting camps. Girls soccer had their freshman camp today. Football attended a camp at Linfield last week. Boys soccer hosted a freshman and goalkeeper camp last week, and then the girls volleyball had a beach volleyball tournament type of thing and last week.
Awesome.
Just like Ma said, happy summer. Again, since we are out of school, there's not much going on at Tigard, but our thespians, our Tigard High School theater department, is right now in Indiana as they qualified for ITF, which is International Thespians. It's a convention, and they performed their one act. Nathan, who's one of our other student representatives, is right there, is over there right now as he's a part of that one act. And then it's a block on mine. The Pride Festival, Tigard High School GSA, is in collaboration with the city of Tigard. This Saturday from 2 to 4:30. Starts in the Rite Aid parking lot and goes down Durham to the Tigard High School student parking lot. And that's it for Tigard.
Awesome. Thank you. And do you guys have big plans for the summer?
Just working to save enough for college.
That counts. That counts.
Mainly just sleeping.
I wish I could do that too. That sounds very refreshing. All right. And with that, we'd like to move on to our next agenda item, which is Superintendent and Board Communications. And we'll move over to Dr. Udo.
Thank you, Vice Chair James. So today marked the end of, with this board meeting will be the end of my first year as superintendent. And wow, it has been a great year. You know, I hear people say this sometimes, and people have probably heard me say this, and it's not an exaggeration. I still wake up every day, and I'm so grateful that I get to lead this district and be in the role that I'm in right now. And it's been quite the year. There was like a lot of highs, and there was some pretty big lows, right? And through it all, I'm really proud of what our team has been able to accomplish to serve students. And also through the hard times, I remained grateful for the feedback that I got from people, and also that there was an acceptance of my leadership, even when things were challenging, right? And so, again, it's been a great year so far. I'm glad that we're wrapping it up, though, and hopefully get a little bit of downtime before we wrap things up and start again. But importantly, what I want to do is use the successes that we've had this year as building blocks for a more successful 25-26 school year. So again, very honored to serve as your superintendent and to get past my first year. So I want to talk about the bond a little bit. So we did pass the bond, and I know we're getting some inquiries, but we are opening applications for the Bond Oversight Committee. And so this committee is a vital role in transparency and incorporating community, and in making sure that we're keeping folks up to date and taking community input as we start to plan the bond and then start doing the actual building and integrating, progressing through the bond. So for those who are interested in applying, here are some things that are helpful. One is that you can make a commitment and that you have an inquiry-based mind and want to show up as a learner. That's what's most important. Some things that are a benefit, though, is if you've had some experience working in building design or construction, finance, contracting, real estate. Those things are always a benefit to add your expertise, but they're not a requirement, and they should not discourage you from applying and getting involved. We just really want community members to get involved. So to do that, go onto our website. I just did a query search for Bond Oversight Committee, and it'll take you right to the application. And we'll be processing those sometime soon. Darren, do you know when we're processing those applications? Throughout the summer. Excellent. And we'll keep you updated on that as well. Today during our work session, we reviewed academic outcomes from the 24-25 school year. And as expected, based on the updates that we've been providing you all, we had some areas that are worthy of celebration. And then we also know that we have some areas that are in need of attention. And so to that end, I want to focus on, I want to talk a little bit about data and the importance of data. One thing is that data is going to have imperfections. When I say imperfections, there's going to be some data that we want to make sure we're not hiding from, but instead we're using it as an opportunity to make informed decisions, as indicators for the vitality and health of how our district is doing. And finally, we want to use that data to be able to track our progress over the course of several years. So we know that we do have some gaps, and I'll mention those, but also we want to use data for opportunities to celebrate. And we certainly have some things that are worthy of celebration. So just to highlight a couple of things, and I don't want to steal the board's thunder because you all are going to comment on this, but fifth grade math is, as Chair Urban said earlier today, yay. We are doing great in fifth grade math. And when I say great, we're closing gaps, we're showing progress, and there's a pattern that we're showing growth in that area. So that's really good for us to see. Also, sense of belonging and office and discipline referrals. We know we've been focusing on improving behaviors based on relationship and systems. And we're starting to see that in our behavior referrals, in that 95% of our kids have one or less referrals, meaning they have no referrals ever, or maybe had a referral, had a bad day, something happened, right? That's a really great number. And then for our historically underserved students of color, 94% of them. So we're seeing a closure of that gap. You know, we won't be satisfied till that gap's all the way closed, but we see a closure in that gap. And so areas of growth, we know we need to continue to lean in on how we are supporting our multilingual learners of English. And we need to be really intentional and really specific about the approaches that we're taking there. We're making a lot of efforts in the classroom right now, and our focus next year is going to be to continue to remove barriers and increase outcomes for our MLEs. And so we're looking forward to getting to work on that. I know that our directors and our principals and our teachers are approaching that with laser-like focus. And finally, I want to take an opportunity to say that we are starting our summer school, and our summer school is really important because there's a connection between the programming that we're able to offer in summer school and how it's benefiting student learning outcomes and student sense of connectivity to schools. Whether that's our Jumpstart Kinder programs, which help prime students for being school ready when they become kindergartners, or our Rising program at the middle school to support with the transition, or our credit recovery programs to make sure that if our students are not on track, that we're making up those credits. They all serve a purpose. And we were able to utilize about $200,000 worth of our state funding. And those are primarily towards literacy, which we see as something that we really need and is a benefit. But making learning something that's just not from September to June, but something that's year-round is a trend that we want to promote in this district. And so, again, we're going to be advocating for more summer dollars next year and finding ways to ensure that we're creating more opportunities for kids to get involved in summer programming. But to end on a high note, we have about, I want to say 600 kids preliminarily, after our preliminary numbers, that are involved in summer learning. So that's 600 kids who aren't sitting at the couch, who aren't scrolling. They're going to school, they're engaging their learning, they're getting after it. And so I want to say kudos to those kiddos, and thank you to the staff members who are coming into this summer and making sure kids are engaging their learning. And that's it for my report.
Thank you so much for that. Board members, who would like to go first?
So it's been a little quiet since that flurry of all of those graduations that we had at the beginning of the month. But there was one other end of the year celebration I was able to go to, and that was the WISE program, which was really neat it wasn't really a graduation, but it was sort of a moving up. Reminded me actually of like the Girl Scouts thing where they move up to the next level. Some amazing kids, some huge smiles, a really wonderful, warm, inclusive, uh, just loving environment for these kiddos. And it was a great celebration. I also went to the 8th annual Collaborating for Equity end of year informational and sharing of what all of the various building equity groups were doing during the course of their year. And I wish I had taken better notes, but I remember Creekside had done some amazing things. And I didn't write them down because I was so busy listening. And now I can't remember what the exact things were, but I remember it was really impressive. So I've got a note to myself to go back and talk to Russ about all of the things that happened at Creekside. And then finally, I went to the Juneteenth celebration at Tigard at Cook Park, and really nice event. I was a little disappointed that weren't more people there. I think that had something to do with which part of the park they were in, so they weren't getting as many walk-by people. But it was still a very fun event, some great music. That's my report.
Thank you.
Yes, it has been a little quiet. And in my house, I have a teenager who's also sleeping and doing things like that. I want to thank our student reps for being involved in board work this year. Thank you for your participation. And it is always really nice to look across the table and remember, not that we don't always, but just see a representation of why we're here and doing this work, to see students at the table. And so thank you for being here, and for our other student reps who aren't in the room also. Wish you all the best in your future. And I also want to acknowledge that this is the end of your first year, Dr. Udo, and thank you for your leadership and your guidance and everything. We've had a really huge year as a district, and you and your team have done amazing work and an enormous amount of work this year, and so thank you. Looking forward to next year, and just looking forward to not that we're going to necessarily slow down over the summer, but amazing things have happened in this district this year, and getting that bond passed and seeing that the work is going to start on that will just be a really exciting finish to this year and start to next year. And yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Director Weston, just want to make sure that you don't have any comments.
Thank you, Vice Chair Jaimes. I'm just appreciating being at home where I'm recovering from being sick. Thank you, everyone, for all the reports, and appreciate our team that made sure I could join remotely.
Thank you so much. I love the end of the school year because it's always filled with gratitude, and we don't. I mean, we do get that throughout the school year, but mostly we work it up until now, and it's like, all right, we're done, and we're grateful for everybody that we work with, and I think that like you were saying, just the amount of things that we have, that you all have accomplished, that the students have accomplished, that we've all accomplished for our students is just incredible, and that's what I'm grateful for this end of the year. I guess I'm grateful for this guy too. You know, I think that one of the best things to do is to visit the schools, and I know that you spend a lot of time in the schools where the students are at. So I really appreciate that about your leadership style, and just everybody else that goes into the schools. Unfortunately, I don't have time to get out there as much, but hopefully next year, once I've assured myself what I'm doing in this new job that I'm doing, then I can take some time and go into our schools more. With that, I'm sorry that there's no birthday celebrations because there's no treats hanging. And just confirming that there's no public comment other than the written one that was submitted. All right, perfect. So with that, we'll move on to reports and discussions. And like we said, we postponed A, so we're going on to B, which is the second semester academic review presented by us. Okay. Oh,
And this is just an opportunity, like our SIPs, for you all to comment on anything, reflect on anything that you learned during the work session.
perfect. What,
Not to
anybody
put
like
you
to
on
go
the
first?
spot.
This is problematic because our superintendent stole our thunder. I mean, the two things that I was going to talk about were the fact that our disaggregated data for our office referrals was 95 and 94% for all students and our underserved students, as our superintendent mentioned, and also that the number of students reporting that there was an adult in the building who made them feel safe and cared about has gone up dramatically. And by dramatically, I mean by about 15, 20 points at fifth grades, what was it, sixth grade, ninth grade, 12th grade, with those, I can't remember what the measurement points were now. I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to have to wing it.
Third. Yeah.
I think it's 11.
Anyway, it was up by 15 to 20 points at each one of those, up to 83 point something percent in the high school level, which is really remarkable that our high school kids feel like there's somebody who cares about them. There are many people who care about them, but it's nice to know that kids know that. And as I said earlier, I think there's a definite link between those 2 points that the superintendent already talked about.
Okay, well, now our superintendent and Director Zerschmied, we'll just keep stealing each other's thunder. I will say that I just, as always with these work sessions, so appreciate the work done by the team in not only collecting the data, but in really looking deeply into what's behind it. What are the root causes? What comes next? I feel like, anytime anybody asks a question, like there's already been a lot of analysis into what's behind it, a lot of thought as to what comes next. And of course, it was way too short of a session. Like we could have talked about that for a long time. Some things I noticed are things that everybody else noticed. Kindergarten attendance was up. I know that's been a challenge in recent years. And, attendance is a challenge everywhere, but kindergarten attendance was up. This has already been mentioned, but referrals being down in that new way that we are looking at referrals, the percentage of students that have never had or have had one referral, and that equalizing between groups. Students that feel like they have trusted adults, and that increasing more as students get older. And then, as I have said this many times in my last couple of years on the board, is that, we know research shows that districts that look at all data have better outcomes for students, not just looking at their positive data, but looking at all data. And Dr. Udo was mentioning this earlier, and our staff does that here, right? We don't just look at the good data and sort of, bypass any other data. It's looking at all data. It's disaggregating the data. It is looking at gaps and saying, what does come next? What can we do? And staff brings that to the board so that we can look at that, ask questions, and eventually work that into, okay, what is the AROI? How do we fit all of this information into the strategic plan? And that is what moves the dial. And so every time we do these sessions, I learn more about how the work of this team and the work of our entire district is really wrapping around and supporting students by looking at all of our data, celebrating what's great, trying to support what still needs support. And this is just one of those instances that we learn more about that.
Thank you. Director Weston?
Nothing to add. Thank you for the thorough presentation. I guess I do have some to add. I really appreciate the way the data was all split out, and being able to look at it in advance, in depth, was really nice.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo the sentiment. Thank you so much for putting the thoughtfulness behind all of the data and the presentation. I think every time that we all gather to look at data and nerd out on it, like I said earlier, is it's very useful to all of us to learn just and appreciate just how much thoughtfulness goes um, into not only procuring the data, but what happens behind the scenes, like the teachers, the principals, all of that they have to prepare to be able to have these outcomes. And one of the things that I like the most about this data is the ninth grade success data that we have, because it is a very important indicator for our students in terms of getting them across that finish line and getting them graduated, right? And if we've got this key indicator that is this ninth grade success, where we can track it and make sure that we're walking alongside all of these students, then we can get them across the finish line much easier. So really appreciate all of your work on that. With that, if there's no more,
One thing I forgot to mention was in the board packet, there is the full data that was presented to us during the work session, but there's also the end of year report, which goes into even more depth. So if anybody out there is a total data nerd and wants to know all of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the reasoning why, all of the data that matches up to our strategic plan is also linked there in the end of year report.
yes, thank you. We'll look at that later. And with that, we'll move on to report and discussion item C, annual EEAC committee report presented by Dr. McCall. And friends. And more friends.
Good evening, Board of Directors. It is my honor to introduce to you our presenters tonight. Is Jacob DeGraw, who is the chair of our Educational Equity Advisory Committee, along with Vice Chair Henry Costello, who will be presenting with Jacob. And with me is also Dr. Zinnia An. So at this time, turn it over to Jacob.
Thank you, Dr. McCall. Good evening, board and superintendent. It's nice to be here tonight, so thank you for this opportunity. So yeah, we're going to go into providing a summary of our recommendations from the annual report, just giving a quick year in review of the Educational Equity Advisory Committee, and also just quickly go into some lessons learned that we had during our last meeting, and then give the board an opportunity to ask any questions that you guys might have. So if we go to the next slide, as far as the year in review, we held 9 meetings this year, which is one fewer than last year, and we feel like that hit the sweet spot, and so that's something we're going to continue to do in future years. The only subcommittee, while in previous years we had a decent amount of subcommittee work, the only subcommittee that met this year was the annual report subcommittee. That's mostly due to the lack of funding for the equity funds dispersal, which was a subcommittee last year, and the policy subcommittee also didn't happen to meet this year. We added 2 new students to the committee this year, which is awesome. It's great to have students on the committee, so I believe we have 3 students on the committee right now. We started the school year with 16 members, and by the end of the school year, it was down to 11. So recruitment and retention is still a little bit of a challenge. Our goal is to have 8 members present at each meeting, and we usually hit that number, so that's good. But we are going to need to recruit some more committee members pretty heavily for this next school year. And then all of this culminated with our second annual report, which was delivered to the board last week. So hopefully you all have had a chance to read through it. And if you haven't, I hope you do take the time to read through it. And we'll get into the recommendations, highlights of the recommendations in the next slide. All right, so one of the roles of the committee is to review schools' EASH plans. So the education accountability solutions and healing plans that all schools include in their SIPs. So that's one large body of work that we do. and a recommendation that we included in the report this year is that there appeared to be a small step backwards in the level of detail and consistency in some of the schools' EASH plans. So the recommendation here is to use, we did pick Bridgeport Elementary's EASH plan as an exemplar for other schools to follow. With that being said, it is a very robust EASH plan, so there could be challenges. So part of this recommendation would be to obtain feedback from schools as far as challenges that they're having completing their EASH plans and seeing what can be done to help them remove those roadblocks to complete their EASH plans. We also recommend that schools intentionally address their EASH plans during the SIP roundtable sessions. So EASH members are invited and show up to some of those roundtables. And most of the time, the EASH plans aren't directly addressed. It's oftentimes due to time constraints, but we would encourage schools and the principals and APs to try and address the EASH plans in those meetings. For the SRO program, so another body of work that the EEAC has oversight of, our recommendation here, we have two of them. One of them is with 2 new SROs starting in Tigard. We just encourage that community building and whatnot that needs to happen when new SROs are showing up in the schools. And one way that we think that that can be done is by partnering with communications and community relations, as far as reaching out and trying to have those positive interactions with the community. So we would recommend that. We also heard about an opportunity when the SROs met with us about potentially partnering with family partnership advocates to help meet needs of some families in the community. And we would like to encourage that. We would just like to make sure that there are clear guidelines and whatnot set in place in order to continue to maintain and build the trust that the SROs have in our community and schools when working with those families. As far as bias incidents and hate speech goes, one thing to note is that when we did conduct our review of this data, we only had half of the year data, so we didn't have the full year of data like you have been able to review. So keep that in mind for some of these recommendations. So for example, one recommendation is when we were reviewing the data, we did still see some disproportionate outcomes of office discipline referrals for Black and Pacific Islander students. So we would encourage, to continue to look at root cause analysis of that and trying to develop targeted interventions to address that. And then going on to Cabinet Roundtable, which is another big body of work that we have where members of Cabinet come and present to us as far as, what progress they're making towards their strategic goals and whatnot. This year, similar to last year, they conducted a SWOT analysis with us, so looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within their work. So one of the areas of Cabinet that show up was academics. And so as far as the recommendation for academics is, while there is focus with the two-way immersion and ensuring equitable access to the two-way immersion program, we would encourage looking beyond just providing equitable access. And because some students have reported feeling othered or kind of disconnected from the rest of the school due to the curriculum being kept very much separate from the rest of the school and whatnot. So trying to find solutions to help students in the TWE program feel more of a sense of community and belonging within the greater school rather than just within their TWE community. Additionally, continually to analyze the disproportionate identification of Hispanic students in SPED. So I believe that was a recommendation from last year, and that's something that is still something that needs to be looked at. As far as HR and diversification of workforce goes, similar to last year, there were more positive outcomes of meeting their goals and achieving their goals. So when addressing one of the areas last year of how to better leverage areas of strength to further their goals, one of the things that HR mentioned was storytelling and broadcasting through media as a possible recruitment tool for TTSD. So similar to the SRO recommendation, we would like to encourage HR to partner with communications and community relations to try and get that out there, to try and broadcast, what it's like, what's it like to be a teacher in TTSD and try and really get that message out there. one other recommendation there as well is establishing or strengthening mentoring relationships for staff and teachers in the district, and consider cross-district or even professional groups to help support and give teachers and staff that development sense of community that they need. With culture and climate, last year one of our recommendations was that we noticed that there was potentially discrepancies in how some schools reported office discipline referrals. Like some elementary schools maybe only had major referrals, while some others maybe only had minor, which indicated that there's a discrepancy in how they were reporting. So culture and climate addressed that this year by having calibration sessions with associate principals and deans, which was really awesome and neat to hear. So really encouraging that. And to encourage that a little bit further, we would recommend finding a way to include staff and teachers in that as well, to try and get that down to staff and teachers, since they are often the front lines of the referrals and whatnot. So trying to include them. Something else that was mentioned from their presentation was the lack of a district-wide engagement goal to promote student belonging. So that would be another recommendation that we'd have would be to create that district-wide goal of student engagement so that all schools can be working towards the same thing. And then this year was our first year of having communications and community relations show up and present at our cabinet roundtable. One of our focuses as a committee is, ensuring community engagement and making sure that community needs and concerns are being addressed. So it was really great to hear from the communications and community relations team. One of the recommendations here, just hearing, based on the changes from this last year, not being able to focus on social media as much. So we would recommend this next school year to focus more on social media for community engagement, and not just to engage with the community, but also to measure community engagement, because there are tools to measure community engagement using social media. So we would encourage that. And as I already mentioned a couple times, consider partnering with other departments within the district to help them meet their goals and their outreach. I mentioned the policy subcommittee did not meet this year, but that doesn't mean that we don't have recommendations. So similar to last year, we would appreciate any recommendations for policies for us to review. We would gladly do that. We would also recommend that an EEAC member be present at board policy development meetings. So one of the roles of the EEAC is to provide feedback and whatnot on school board policy. So to have one of us present there, I think would be helpful to meet that. And then lastly, one of the larger overarching recommendations regarding all these goals, and this was something that was noticed partway through the year, is a recommendation that the board and or superintendent put a process in place to specifically address the recommendations made by the committee. So I think the example from culture and climate was a great one, where they came back and they addressed a recommendation from the prior year and how they did that, and that was a great example. I think setting something like that in place for especially the cabinet roundtable would be fairly easy to do. We'd have to have conversations on how to do that for some of the other areas, like the bias and hate speech data and whatnot in the SRO program. But I think putting a program in place to ensure that the committee's voice is being heard and whatnot would help keep engagement with committee members and just help meet the charge of the committee. All right, and then next slide would be the lessons learned. So lessons learned, this is something that I've taken away from my career, where after any big project or a big body of work, it's always good to look back on it and consider the positives, like what worked well, what is stuff that you would like to continue doing in the future, and what are some deltas, what are some things that you would like to potentially change in the future. So that's what I'm trying to highlight here. As mentioned at the beginning, 9 meetings I think was the perfect spot. It equates to about 1 meeting per month for the school year, and I think that worked really well. Another positive was our vice chair, Henry, here brought some stability to the committee. It's really nice having another leadership role on this committee. So it was great having Henry step up, and I'm looking forward to working with him more in the future. We did hold some meetings virtually this year intentionally, and that was a great opportunity for some people, the committee, to show up to the committees in a meeting that's maybe a little in a format that's a little bit more comfortable for them, and we're also still able to meet engagement goals. So we're going to continue doing that in the future as well. And several committee members have mentioned just the protocols that we use, like the 4Cs protocols and first thought, second thought protocols, as well as the centralized documentation that we use is really helpful to ensure that everybody's voice is heard and that we're getting as much data for what we're looking at as possible. And then on the data review, having a balance of data review plus presentations, right? I mean, we did have, I believe we had one work session where it was 100% all data review, and we try not to do that, and we try to break it up a little bit because looking at data can kind of make your mind melt a little bit. So yeah, we try and balance intentionally our meetings such that, you know, half of it is presentation focused and the other half is data review. And as far as deltas go, I believe this might have been mentioned last year, just improvement in onboarding new members. I mean, it's like for new volunteers and new people to this world, it's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes with all the acronyms and all the information that's being thrown your way. So improving onboarding could be done either through an FAQ document or an onboarding toolkit. So that's something that Henry and I and Dr. Allen and Dr. McCall can consider working on. Another one that I would like to work on is the structure of the annual report, making it so that it's more, how do I put it, templated and user-friendly for somebody else to take on in the future, right? So, because it might not always be me doing this, so making it easier for other people to step in and do that work, I think would be super helpful. And then a couple of other people recommended a retreat before the year starts, which I think is a great opportunity. That could also be a good opportunity for onboarding as well as developing some relationships. Because when getting into this work, it is important to have those relationships first when you start getting into, you know, looking at some of this data and having some of this work. And then one other delta before we go into questions for the board, because I do kind of have my own question for the board. One change that did recently happen with the passage of House Bill 2453, which changes such that the EEAC now reports to the superintendent rather than the board. I'm just curious from either the board or superintendent what type of change you see that will come from the EEAC with that.
I know that one of the drivers behind that legislation change was around protecting anonymity for those who were participating in the EAC, and also we did making sure people weren't reluctant in participating. So I think that this is really important work, and we need to have a broad range of participants at the table, diverse participants at the table. So hopefully this legislation will, one, encourage others to continue to get involved. Second is, this is a little bit more selfish, to hold a board meeting now, there's a lot of regulations in terms of public meeting law. And what I think this does is it removes some of the barriers to ensure that you all can do your work. And that there doesn't need to be as much administrative oversight in ensuring that those meetings can convene. So those are a couple of benefits. I can't speak on behalf of the board, of course, so I'm just kind of sharing a benefit of it being contained within the purview of district administration rather than the board. And it gives us a little bit more autonomy to be flexible, even with like meeting times or adjusting agendas and things like that. So hopefully those are things that will, those are changes that will improve the way we're able to operate the EEAC. And hopefully it also brings me a little bit closer to the work as well.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, with that, I know that in Salem-Keizer, where I work, they already are a committee that reports to the superintendent, but you know, like tomorrow I will be doing a share out similar to this. I might just steal your presentation. Similar to the school board, right? And so there's a way to be able to engage in both things with the autonomy and the ability to change, you know, the agendas on the fly, you know, things like that, where it's not held to public meeting law. So you know, I don't know what we will talk and we'll see what we would have to do in order to change all of that. But it's codified in law, I think. So there might not be much that we need to do. But any questions or
Well,
comments?
I was gonna say, I for one would be very sad if you no longer made this annual presentation to the board, because I find it fascinating. It's, as a board member, I find it very useful to hear from other members, community members, as you know, about what their perspective on how we're doing is. And so I would be a fool to not welcome yet another perspective, or to say, no, don't show me that one anymore. That would simply not be. I did have one question. You mentioned, you were talking about, when you were talking about TWE students, that they felt disconnected from the rest of the school. Was that primarily high school students, or did you hear that also from middle school?
It was
elementary?
primarily high school, yes. So I understand, like, with high school is like the first class that is graduating all the way through the TWE program, that there are some growing pains. So you know, the hope is that as the other classes come up through the program, that those growing pains will be fixed a little bit more, and that some of these concerns or issues will be remedied.
So would you say it's fair to attribute it primarily to growing pains as that first class is going through?
I think it's possible, yeah. So it's just something to be aware of, and
yeah, and keep our eye on. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think with our first TWE class finally graduating this year, those growing pains are going to get, you know, smoother in terms of like the benefit that being a TWE student has, and so I'm really hopeful that those things just kind of get ironed out. Anybody else?
Just a big general question. What do you see as the biggest impact of this committee?
I mean, we do see it. So again, I think I'll be honest, I think the cabinet roundtable right now is where I've seen the biggest impact so far. I think that's where I've seen the biggest connection of us being able to provide feedback and seeing response to the feedback. So, you know, again, I know I use culture and climate as the example, but other departments have done the same thing, right? So they're not the only ones. So I think being able to provide those recommendations and then receive that response that they're being worked on, I think that's the greatest impact.
Yeah, and I want to say, you know, thank you for all of the effort that you guys put into this report, and for all of the efforts that you guys put into all those 9 meetings that that you had, because it's definitely important for you all to come and tell us what we should be on the lookout to make things more equitable for our students. I do want to, you know, acknowledge what you were saying, that yes, we do need to put a system in place for reviewing these recommendations and having a process to make those, you know, not like make the recommendations come to us and then us passing them over to the superintendent. But now with this new change, now that you'll be able to make the recommendations directly to the superintendent, I think that's going to be a better way for you all to make that have that advocacy and have that change take place. And I'm sorry that I thought there was EEAC members that sat on the policy subcommittees, but we should make that definitely something that should happen. Should definitely have those, have you guys at the table when that's happening. But I do appreciate all of your recommendations. And when we were going through the SIP plans, I did get a sense that we were kind of overlooking our each plans, and so I do appreciate you bringing that to our attention, because we will need to make sure that we are putting more of an emphasis on them. I mean, people work hard on them, so we should be able to review them. Director Wesson, do you have anything?
Well, thank you for all the work that this group has been doing, and I feel like others have made a lot of good comments too. So thank you for all the good work.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. And with that, we'll move on to our next report and discussion item. Item D, SRO presentation with Director Jarvis Gomez, our Chiefs of Police, and our SROs. Welcome, everybody.
Good evening. Thanks for having our two police departments here tonight. We are in the midst of working on our agreement, RGA, with the two cities. But every year, our SROs do come and present some data. This year, we do have both of our chiefs, Chief Pickering from Tualatin and Chief McDonald from Tigard. And then our two SROs to my right and left is from Tualatin, Brian Miller. And to my left, your right, is John Mooring. They'll do most of the talking tonight. It's just mostly want to give gratitude for our partnership that we have, because it is pretty amazing. If you haven't seen these two in action, it's pretty amazing. And the other thing I want to say that's pretty cool is both of our chiefs were SROs in our school district as well. So they know it all. We're going to start with Tualatin. Brian's going to start off. Actually, I'll give it to Chief Pickering to give some comments, and then he can turn it over to Brian.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm a product of TTSD, and my first experience that I can recall with an SRO was actually in the hallowed halls of Tualatin Junior High at the time, as a 7th grade student walking in and being confronted by Officer Randy Capus, who was a police officer from the city of Tualatin, who was one of the first SROs in the district back then. He made a huge impact on me personally and my growth. Actually was one of the ones who solidified that I wanted to be a police officer. It was a huge partnership back then, back in 1987 when that occurred, and one that we've seen continued through all the way through with my experience being an SRO and the partnership that comes with it, and now being the chief of the police department in Tualatin, to see that the work that our officers do on a daily basis to connect with the kids, to connect with the community, and the impact that they do have throughout not just the schools that they deal with, but with the community themselves, and the partnership that they bring to the students and even to the parents and to the staff that are there in the schools. So I appreciate the partnership that we have with the district. I think it's one that's been strong for many years, and one that we are very invested in and believe in. We send you some of our best. We select and we carefully hand select those that we send to be our representatives of the police department in the schools. So much so that we've extended one of our assignments to a 10-year assignment because of the knowledge and skill that these officers bring to the district in dealing with the kids and the true impact that they do have. So again, I want to say thank you for the partnership, and thank you for the work that we do together to make this community and our kids feel safe.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Who's running the slides here? Okay, there you are, Lisa. I think we want to go through these fairly quickly. I probably won't go through every slide, so you can go on to the next. So, as Tualatin SROs, we're dedicated to making a difference in the lives of every student by ensuring each child feels safe in the classroom environment, promoting an open door policy for all students, interacting with students in a positive way every day, and supporting the staff and community. You can go to the next. You can go to the next slide. So these are just some of the events that Daniel, Officer Hernandez, and I attended throughout the school year. I won't read through every one of those. And we'll go into, you can go to the next slide, Lisa. And one more. So here's our combined total reports for this past school year. There should be one more. there it goes. So we had, there was 47 different offense incident reports, 10 arrest reports, 33 supplemental reports, and 2 juvenile referrals. That juvenile referral is basically, we list those in situations where there's a request for a report to be written, but maybe the issue incident rose to a criminal level, but it's really should be handled as a school-based issue. But there was a request a report be generated. Go back one slide. This is just a graph showing our school year, just the different types of reports that were generated and classifications, and how many of reports for each category. And then here's a more in-depth look at the actual offenses. If you have any questions, specific questions regarding any of those offenses, you can ask. And this is a more detailed list. I know it came up pretty small in this slide, but you know, that just outlines all the offenses, and then the suspect's race, the victim's race, the sex. And then here's just a more in-depth breakdown of the victims and suspects by race. You can go to the next slide. Next. One more. These are just the arrest referrals that were made to the juvenile department. You can go to next. This is a pretty good slide. It just kind of shows the 5-year trend of all the juvenile arrests. Kind of a spike in 2022, 2021, 2022, that kind of post-COVID schools were a little bit chaotic that year.
So is the data here for 2025 complete, or did you have to cut it off mid-year? Is this for the full school year?
This is for the full school year.
And this is by school year, not calendar year?
Yep, just September to June.
Okay.
I try to get as close as I can. I think it was June 10th, maybe. Twelve students in all of our student body, as far as Tualatin goes, resulted in a juvenile referral arrest. And I think that's just a result of just being able to, I know at Tualatin High School, where I work primarily, just working closely with administrators and low-level offenses, and being able to just educate students and families, of what could the potential consequences if the actions continue, and being able to talk with victims' families and be able to talk through incidents and assure them that we're going to be able to handle this in a different manner rather than through the juvenile system. So getting creative with parents and families. That's it.
I want to just highlight one thing really quick that Brian just mentioned, is that the rest of referrals was 12. And even when I was at Tualatin High School, that would probably have been quadrupled. And the reason I say that is the work that we do now is with our SROs and our administrators and our kids is to try to find other avenues to curb the behavior, right? And not go into the juvenile system. So those 12 are probably ones that needed, lack of better terms, got to a point where they tried all those other things first. I'm going to hold off if you are okay with questions and let Tigard go, and then we'll save questions for the end. So I'm going to give this to Chief McDonald real quick.
Good evening. Thank you all for having us here. Chief Pickering said it really well about the partnership that we have with TTSD. And then something that we have that's very fortunate here in Tigard and Tualatin is the relationship between our police departments as well. We have worked very closely together for a very long time. And even though our cities are quite different when you take a look at them, we work almost in unison as police departments, which is pretty remarkable. We're all here tonight as a result of work that we did with the district, the police departments, some of the board members. Board member Zerschmied was there. Dr. Zinnia Un was a part of a work group that we did a few years ago when we took a look at the school resource officer program and made some adjustments. And one of the things that came out of that was a report back to the school board each year to let you all know where this landed. The talk about trying to keep kids out of the criminal justice system is real. It's one of the primary focuses that we have, both of our police departments do when we're working with kids, because we know that kids can be turned in the right direction. Their frontal lobes have not developed all the way, right? And we have an opportunity to correct that behavior and fix it before it goes the wrong way. And I'll share a personal story from when I was an SRO. So back in 2006, I was selected to be an SRO here in Tigard. Our program was a little bit different at the time. We taught DARE and GREAT in the schools, and that was my primary responsibility. But when I wasn't doing that, I was assigned to assist the high school SRO. And down there was a young man that found himself in the office quite often for minor school level offenses. And I struck up a conversation with him, as we do as SROs. That's how you get to know the kids, is to start talking to them. And he was super standoffish, didn't want to talk to the police for a variety of reasons that I found out over the next 4 years or 3.5 years. And he and I got to build a relationship. And over time, I saw less and less of him in the office. He'd come by, let me know he got a new job, that he was having some success in his school classes and things like that, which I can tell you as a freshman he was not having. And I got promoted to sergeant about 2/3 of the way through my senior year, I'll call it, at Tigard High. And he was one of a few students that I called out of class to let him know that I was getting promoted and that I wouldn't be at school anymore. So he actually started to cry, gave me a great big hug and congratulated me, and off he went. A couple of years ago, I just happened to be at the office in the evening. It was about this time, 7:30 in the evening, and our front desk staff says, I was a commander at the time, "Hey, Commander McDonald, there's somebody here in the lobby to see you." Well, that's odd. I shouldn't even be here right now, but I was. So I went out there, and here was this young man with his wife and his 2 little girls. And he said to me, he goes, "I wanted you to meet my family." His mom still lives here in Tigard. He lives in Salem, works in construction. And his wife gave me a great big hug and said, "Thank you. He's told me all about you and everything you did for him." I don't even really know what I did, but that's what the impact of the SRO program has with the students in this district, because they get to know the students, and you don't know the impact that you might be having years later. But apparently it was enough that this young man wanted to come back and wanted his family to meet me, because I made an impact somehow at some point that resonated with him. And that's the impact that these gentlemen have, the ones that are in the schools working every day. I know they do because I hear. We have 2 brand new SROs, as you heard from your previous presenters, and I can assure you this, they're both fantastic people, and they love kids, and they're going to build the same relationships. So you can continue to see those same types of stories being built that we may never hear as time goes on. But there are countless of those out there. So I'll stop talking and let John. John does a good job talking too. So
thanks, I guess. So I'm John. Been an SRO. This is my end of my 6th year. I have 2 years left of my assignment. I'll be at the high school at Tigard for the last 2 years. They moved me up there anyway. So we'll start with our stats. So we wrote, there was 3 SROs. We wrote a total of 114 reports between the 3 of us. Obviously, you can read that. 106 of those were original reports, and the 8 of those were supplementals, which is an additional report on top of another report we've previously written or another officer has written. Out of those, you can see the numbers there. Primarily, DHS referrals is the big one there. That's a big part of what we do. Suspicious circumstances, another big one. And kind of the disorderly conduct, assault, harassment, kind of a common list, fighting. Another one we write as well. So you can see those. Let's move on. There we are doing hot dogs at the first day of school. I have to narrate that. There we are posing. So a little more of the reports that we written. This is continued, different things we wrote reports on. Again, if you have questions about those, I probably don't know what all those are. I might know what some of them are, but if you have questions about what those generally mean or anything, we can answer those at the end. Next slide. So we wrote between the 3 SROs, we made 0 arrests at the school level. We had 15 referrals, which are not like school referrals. They're a little different. That's when we refer a report to the juvenile department for them to make a decision on what to do with what we write up. So we had 15 of those between the 3 of us where we sent it off to the juvenile department. Sometimes that results in community service or some type of diversion, or sometimes TVFNR's fire program, which is really great if you have any issues with that. And sometimes it does result in an arrest. But we referred 15 reports out to the juvenile department with that, and it breaks it down there. I think the slide got a little goofy, obviously, with all the different categories there. But on the top, you can see they're broken down by race at the top. And it also lists victim and who the reporter was. There was also another slide to this. I think if you look at it, though, all 15 of those were not initiated by us. They were where the school came to us and said, hey, we have an issue. This is what we have. Can you help us with this? So there's not something that we went out looking for trouble and found. They were all issues that the school brought to us. They all say school. Sometimes these also are parents that can come to us as well with, hey, my kid had this happen as well. Next slide. I think it's just a continuation of those. Again, they're kind of got weird spacing on that one. And then there's some more great photos of people doing great things. All right, any questions?
Comments, questions? Go ahead.
So I just wanted to say I am grateful that for both of your departments, the most common referral was a DHS. That's helping a kid who's suffering in some way, shape, or form. And we've said it a bunch of times, but that's the primary reason we want to have the SROs in our schools, to make sure our kids get the services that they need that for whatever reason we can't provide to them. So thank you for that. The second thing is I was connecting the dots from 2 different presentations today, and now I'm really wondering how many of our kids who on that survey said that there was an adult in the building who they trusted and who they knew cared about them. How many of them were talking about an SRO? And I wish I had that statistic.
All of
them. Probably, yes. Anyways, thank you very much, both for the report and for the work you're doing with our kiddos every day.
Thank you for your work. I know a couple of years ago in Hazelbrook, there was a time when your folks were really key to making sure that our students felt safe and helping that school come back together. And my daughter was there at the time, so really appreciate your work there and just being willing, both of your programs to step in and being ready to do that, and then just being one of those caring adults that students have at all times to check in on them. We know that just positive presence in the hallways to say, glad you're here today, and hi, and just, like either know your name or your face, or that a student knows your name or face is really positive and encouraging for students to come to school. Thank you for caring about kids and wanting to see them stay in school and wanting to encourage and wanting to see those referrals go down. We talk all the time about like wanting kids to be in school and feeling included and those positive behavior supports. And hearing you talk about encouragement of that as well is really encouraging. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Director Weston.
Thank you so much for the well done presentation. I really appreciated the stories shared, and thank you for serving and protecting in our schools.
Just want to say thank you for being here tonight, and also thank you so much for your partnership. I've been in high school administration dating back to 2011. And before that, I was a teacher in high school. And so I've seen the way that the job and the role of the SRO has changed over the last 15 or so years. And I've also seen how much more complex it is. And every time that I'm in the schools here, and on these schools I go to, but here with the SRO program, especially since 2020, I've seen you all be present, positively engaging with students, leading with relationship, being available to students. And I just want to say thank you for demonstrating a model of what it's really about to have a strong law enforcement relationship in our schools. That's so valuable and meaningful, not only to our students, but to our community. And it's a relationship we don't take for granted. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you out in the buildings and at events. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to echo that. I think that I want to piggyback on what Chief McDonald had said about the board members and Dr. Un that really came together, and you guys took that anti-bias training that she was offering, and you all came together to be able to really understand like the equitable practices that we do here in Tigard-Tualatin. And so I really appreciate that. As you guys know, I mean, you probably know, but like when I was first running for school board, I always said like, wait, why are we having SROs in school, right? One of the things that really surprised me about our program is the fact that y'all were doing that. You all were doing the work. You were doing that work to make sure that our students and our families felt safe being with you, and I really appreciate that because it really changed my mindset of how an SRO program can be run in districts. And I really think that if you haven't taken your show on the road with Director Un, you guys should, because it's really worth it that you have that presentation to give to everybody else. Like you are definitely something that other SRO programs should be just wanting to be like. It's definitely I've gone into the schools and I've seen you guys, and they're like kids just gravitate to you, and it's amazing. So I really appreciate that. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you for your time. Well, thank you for being here. Yes. And with that, we'll move on to our next item on our agenda, which is action items. Tualatin Elementary School metal roof overlay with Director Bernard and friends.
My sidekick here, of course. Good evening, Board, Superintendent Udo. What we're bringing before you tonight is the Tualatin Elementary School metal roof overlay. And so we recently went through a roofing bid process, and it was through a co-op. And the company that came out, there's 3 qualified bidders. The company came out on top was T&L Sheet Metal,
roofing. And so the project really is going to be over 2 summers. One, beginning this summer, we have a very actively leaking roof at Tualatin Elementary over the gym, the fairly newly refinished gym floor. Last year. And so whenever we get rain, there's big puddles there. And so we've tried over several years to get it repaired and spent lots of money on it, and they cannot get it tracked down. So we will be doing a metal roof overlay over the gym section this summer. It'll be a 2-part project. The next summer, the rest of the school would be completed. And so what we're bringing forth to you is a contract to award the TTNL sheet metal in an amount not to exceed $1,908,908.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments?
So Tualatin Elementary is actually one of our newer elementaries at only 21 years old. Did we have a 20-year roof on that when we built it, or did something go very wrong?
Kevin, you want to speak to that? It's more of a residential roof.
Yeah, so to Darren's point, it is a residential roof on there. It's an architectural shingle. No one can really find any warranty information on it. What is happening is the shingles are failing. They're on the gym. What our best guess is that the way the wind patterns are, the tar strip has just degraded to a point where the wind, when I was in a driving wind rain situation, it's lifting the tabs of the shingles. I've been on the roof multiple times and can literally just reach down, grab, and peel up shingles from underneath with my hand. I should not be able to do that. There's a lot of granule loss on the shingles as well, and the installation is a little bit marginal, I would say, from what I see on the roof. The main portion of the building, we probably would maybe get another 5 years out of it. And a 30-year architectural shingle to get 25 years is pretty much about end of life. It's real similar to the shingles that we had at Alberta Ryder, which was, again, to your point, same vintage of schools being constructed. We redid that roof last summer with the same system because we've struggled with active leaks on that school as well.
Do we have any other schools then in that same age group that have similar roofs that we're going to need to be looking at in the future?
Those are the only two that have the residential style shingles on them. The rest of them either have a combination of built-up roofing, which is our standard, or metal roofing. So that for whatever reason, of the 4 schools that were built during that era, Alberta Ryder and Tualatin Elementary got the asphalt shingles on them.
And so then I'm assuming that we can take this as a lesson learned for our bond now going forward, that we're not going to be doing architectural shingles on roofs.
It is very predominantly called out in our district standards now.
I'm so very glad to hear that.
Anyone else? Learned so much about roofing now. Okay, perfect. If there is no more discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I move to award.
Director Wesson?
I move to award TTNL Sheet Metal Inc. for the Tualatin Elementary Metal Roof Overlay Project for an amount not to exceed $1,908,908.
Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect. With a motion and a second, I would like to entertain a. Is there any discussion on the motion? There we go. No? All right. Then I'd like to entertain a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Motion passes. And with that, that takes us to the end of our meeting, and I'll call to adjourn this meeting at 7:55.